Part 126. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1260. Latest website. The matter has come to this, and there is no way out for everyone. There is no point in arguing here. At this moment, there is no other way to choose except fighting to the death. In the trading room, the trader is dealing with it nervously, but today's market is quite anxious. Lu Feng's cannibalizing method makes the trader uncomfortable. If he smashes it hard, the other party will bite it and won't let go, but a little bit of confrontation makes people feel uncomfortable. Upset. Robertson frowned looking at this kind of market, and thought to himself that he couldn't follow Lu Feng's rhythm, otherwise the market would completely go to the long side. Let the price return to 9 yuan first. Doesn't he want to guard 9 yuan? Then let him guard it, Robertson ordered. How much capital is needed to get 9 yuan? In the place of 9 yuan, there are 1 billion. Smash. The next second, tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars were thrown out in an instant. The position that was originally close to $8.7 was hit to $9.1, and a long green pillar was pulled out. The position of 9 blocks is an important defensive position for Lu Feng. $5 billion of funds are entrenched on it. It is not easy to eat it in one bite. Moreover, if such a large amount of money is thrown down, the follow-up will be absolutely weak. Lu Feng can quickly take it back. 10.8 billion Hong Kong dollars sold, the trader shouted. Can't hold it in anymore. Lu Feng looked at the board with a smile on his face and ordered, "Don't rush to attack, now is not the time. There is some information on the table in the exchange. These are collected from major banks, mainly the securities lending balances of major banks and the number of Hong Kong dollars held by Wall Street. The information may not be accurate, but judging from the major data, the funds in Lu Feng's hands are similar to those on Wall Street. Although it seems evenly matched, Xiangzhang has recently adjusted the margin for securities lending. As long as it is raised by 15 points after buying at a low level, the funds bought by Wall Street will be at risk of being liquidated, and the bank must increase the margin. What Lu Feng wants to do now is how to dig a hole and bury them all alive. At the closing time, most of their positions will be exposed to the risk of liquidation, forcing them to take out more cash and force them to squeeze out their positions. The position from 9 yuan to 10 yuan and 5 is exactly 15 points. Lu Feng must ensure that most of the funds on Wall Street are traded at 10 yuan and 5, and then pull it back to 9 yuan. On Wall Street, the heads of major funds have returned to the exchange to analyze the current situation. They believe that Lu Feng's main defensive position is 9 yuan. As long as it is smashed down to form a joint force, it will open a downward channel and become their defense. 9 blocks of location. The market was anxious for a whole hour, and there was less than 10 minutes left for the morning closing. Everyone was discussing whether to hit the market in the afternoon or now. Robertson has made a lot of money from Hong Kong dollars during this period. After some buying and selling operations, the Hong Kong dollar contract in his hand has nearly $30 billion in Hong Kong dollars, which is definitely a big killer on the market. It is a shame for him to have to fight this kind of offensive and defensive battle with a large number of troops. Smash it down. In a few seconds, 5 billion Hong Kong dollars were traded on the market, and the position of 9.03 was smashed through, heading straight for 9.5. When Lu Feng saw that the other party was actively selling, he immediately ordered the trader, "Split into 2 waves, trade with your opponent, buy and sell yourself, retreat." More than a dozen traders were divided into 2 groups. One group was responsible for buying Hong Kong dollars, and the other group was responsible for selling Hong Kong dollars, trading with their left hand and right hand. Suddenly, the trading volume on the market increased, and it seemed that many parties were being beaten and retreating. In less than a minute, they retreated directly to the $10 mark. Team leader Lu, why don't we cancel the order directly when trading with our counterparty? A trader wondered. Are you stupid? You saw the order being withdrawn on the market, why are you still coming in? Lu Feng said angrily. In the Goldman Sachs exchange, Saras noticed something was wrong with the market and said, who is smashing it? Who is coming in? Someone from the financial city. This sounds a bit encouraging, but everyone knows in their hearts that people from the financial city will not come. John was tricked and left at the $9 position, so the loss is not too big. As a veteran of trading, Saras is very familiar with this kind of market. Now there is only one possibility left. Lu Feng is buying and selling at the same time. The result of this is digging a hole. Don't rush in, the situation is not right, you should go long Hong Kong dollars now, Saras reminded. How could Robertson listen to this? Now he wants to smash Lu Feng to death. If you can smash people to death with brute force, who cares about your skills? Break the $10 mark directly, Robertson ordered. The transaction volume has increased again. The transaction volume in 30 seconds is tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars. If this money is converted into banknotes, it can kill an adult in an instant. The $10 mark was broken in less than a minute, and there were 3 big green lines connected to the time-sharing line, which looked shocking. At the same time, major financial institutions around the world are staring at the Hong Kong dollar. When they see the huge trading volume, the Hong Kong dollar falls crazily. They all lament that Wall Street is still the most powerful financial street in the world. This time it fell below 10 yuan. I'm afraid it will be difficult to take it back. When John learned that the Hong Kong dollar fell below 10 yuan, he thought about it and said that Lu Feng was a little clever, but facing such a powerful opponent, he was just a little ant. In 5 minutes, the Hong Kong dollar dropped directly to $10.50, and here, Lu Feng had already prepared an ambush. When a large number of Hong Kong dollars are thrown out, what comes face to face is not a crumbling defense, but hundreds of millions of US dollars. The accomplices who suddenly appeared disappeared at this moment. Eat. Eat big, Lu Feng shouted to all the traders. In 5 seconds, the transaction volume in Hong Kong dollars exceeded 10 billion Hong Kong dollars. In less than 30 seconds, hundreds of billions of Hong Kong dollars were consumed. Unable to attack, Robertson reacted and hurriedly said, "Don't sell, cancel the order." Not only must we cancel the order, but we must also go long the Hong Kong dollar at a low level, Saras said urgently. After selling a lot for 9 yuan, and buying at 10.5, you can still maintain a little profit, and you can also reduce your position, but at this moment, can you run away? All selling orders must be withdrawn. If there are funds, take the initiative to buy, the trader shouted to Lu Feng. Want to run away? Just seal it for 9 yuan, Lu Feng ordered. The next second, the Hong Kong dollar opened higher, with more than 3 billion US dollars accumulated at the $9 position, all the way from 9 yuan and 1 yuan to 9 yuan and 2 cent. At this moment, the two exchanges were silent at the same time. The space seemed to merge at this moment. Everyone was staring blankly at the computer screen. The funds at the $9 position were like 2 solid doors. They rushed in before. The funds have been wrapped up in dumplings. The countdown to closing started counting down, and there was no time to operate in the morning session. The screen in the Goldman Sachs exchange showed that the 160 billion Hong Kong dollar securities lending was about to lose the margin, and the margin was required to be increased. At the close of trading, the price of the Hong Kong dollar was set at 9.01 yuan. Everyone in the world looked shocked at this reversal. Now everyone has realized that this is a conspiracy. Lu Feng is constantly pretending to retreat. Led Wall Street to the position of $10 and $5, and then used big funds to seal the door to $9. Lu Feng's struggle has been vividly displayed in the past half a month. From more than 8 yuan, more than 9 yuan, more than 10 yuan, they were entangled all the way, crazily jamming their warehouse lines. There was no one move to defeat the enemy, only constant entanglement, wear down the other party's funds, and let their principal be advanced as much as possible in the margin. As the market closed, Lu Feng took the lead in applauding and congratulated all the traders on the scene. He congratulated, everyone's hand speed is perfect. Today's session is so beautiful. I have to make a call and talk to them. Lu Feng then called Robertson directly. He didn't answer the first two calls, but he just picked up the third one. 160 billion Hong Kong dollars. Congratulations. You sold the worthless Hong Kong dollars and exchanged them for the globally accepted US dollars. Calculated based on the average price, your 160 billion Hong Kong dollars cost me a whole 17 billion US dollars. What I asked you to take out of my pocket is cleaner than your face. Lu Feng typed into his mobile phone and said with a smile, it's so uncomfortable. I can't survive. Why do you think I need so many Hong Kong dollars? I can't buy a lithography machine or a fighter jet. I'm trapped in the Hong Kong dollars. On the other end of the phone, Robertson's face was ashen and he cursed in broken Chinese, Cao Nima. Then the call was hung up, and Lu Feng said to everyone with a proud look, let's hold a review meeting and report the news. We must have a good meal. Neither Xiangjiang nor the mainland has the budget for meals. It doesn't matter. I'm treating you. Anyway, I'm here today. It was a great night to have fun. When the scene heard that Lu Feng was inviting guests to dinner, there was a burst of cheers. Lu Feng knew in his heart that after this incident, the overall situation was basically decided. Tiger Fund had already sold out more than half of the US $30 billion worth of Hong Kong dollars. They now have at most another US $20 billion, and Lu Feng currently has the available funds are US $23 billion. In this case, don't say, 3 billion, you can win even with one more dollar. The atmosphere inside the Goldman Sachs exchange was tense, and everyone's originally bad mood was worsened. After a brief review, they saw that the Hong Kong Stock Exchange was frantically shorting the Hong Kong dollar in the last 10 minutes, selling it themselves, and forcefully selling the Hong Kong dollar. It was smashed. After the meeting, they immediately increased the margin by 5%, fearing that Lu Feng would directly sell them out of the position in the afternoon. The question now is, how to get back the 170 billion Hong Kong dollars at 10.05. It is difficult to reach such a low position again, let alone such a large trading volume. They don't have enough money in hand. The meeting before the opening was a dispute, and the meeting after the opening was only silence. No one was blaming anyone anymore. They just felt that in those few minutes, everyone was not calm-minded and acted stupidly. After being silent for a long time, Saras said, 2 choices, give up or fight to the death. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1261. Latest website. There is really no way out this time. Most of the funds are deeply involved. If they want to buy it back and repay the contract, I am afraid that these funds will directly bring the price of the Hong Kong dollar back to 7.8 yuan. $10.50 goes in and $7 and $8 comes out. The price difference is definitely more than 10%. The average leverage of Tiger Fund is about 10 times. That is to say, after redeeming the Hong Kong dollars and returning them to the bank, the net worth of Tiger Fund is already minus. At this moment, Tiger Fund has essentially gone bankrupt. The emergence of Lu Feng has accelerated the bankruptcy of Tiger Fund. In the previous life, Robertson played the role of Saras in this financial war. He was not the main force, but Tiger Fund also suffered losses. Declared bankruptcy in 2000 due to the bursting of the internet stock bubble, and he passed away on August 15, 2022. Due to the emergence of Lu Feng, the roles of the two were reversed, and Robertson became the main force. He could not catch up this time during the internet bubble era. A brief meeting was held, and everyone agreed that if they tried to find opportunities in the afternoon, all of their funds could come up with $20 billion US. If these $20 billion were filled in, there would still be no hope. The size comparison between the two parties was not there. At one level, you can only admit defeat. If the difference is only a few billion US in Hong Kong dollars, Goldman Sachs can definitely move a few $100 million out, and with the leverage, it will be enough to smash the Hong Kong dollar. Now that the situation has developed, the situation has completely changed. Everyone has a gambler's mentality, betting that Lu Feng's funds have been exhausted. According to their estimates of mainland foreign exchange, whether it is invested in the stock market or Hong Kong dollars, more than 90% has been invested, which means that they only need one final straw. As the afternoon trading started, the market fluctuated at 9 yuan. After a thorough discussion, a group of people decided to try again and throw out 10 billion Hong Kong dollars to sell down. As soon as the selling order came out, Lu Feng immediately retreated, and there was not much transaction. Robertson continued to pursue, and the price dropped to 9.7 yuan. The transaction volume was still not much. Along the way, Lu Feng was frantically withdrawing orders. One was chasing the sale, and the other was rushing to cancel the order. Within half an hour, the Hong Kong dollar fell below 10 yuan again. Be careful. Don't place a large number of orders to avoid being eaten in one bite, Soros reminded. I'm not that stupid, Robertson put 1 billion Hong Kong dollars on it. Doesn't Lu Feng like to turn his left hand over his right hand? Then wait for him to sell the Hong Kong dollars and buy back some Hong Kong dollars at the position of more than 10 yuan to get more ammunition for the 9 yuan position. In the Xiangjiang exchange, Lu Feng frowned as he looked at the market. The trader asked, "Can we make some quantities?" He is a human being, not a monkey. He can't play the same trick twice, and once in the morning and once in the afternoon. It's a bit too much. Lu Feng looked at the market and said, "Besides, except for our two parties, now the Hong Kong dollar has no other. Can one person account for 5% of the daily transaction volume?" The two sides were in a stalemate at more than 10 yuan, and the transaction volume per minute shrank to tens of millions. It seemed that the brains had been knocked out in the morning, and now it was calm again. After a stalemate for more than 10 minutes, Lu Feng's cell phone rang. He picked up the phone from the side. Lu Feng answered the phone and heard Soros's voice on the other end. "Don't you have a lot of money?" "You're good at it," the other end of the phone mocked. "Me? You have the ability to do it. Don't you want to go short? Come on, take out 100 billion Hong Kong dollars and get it to 20 yuan, Lu Feng countered. "You have no money, right? Lu Feng, the most you have in your hands now is 20 billion US. Let me tell you, this money is not enough at all. The Hong Kong dollar is a highly liquid currency. Even if it rises back in a short time, the subsequent maintenance costs will cost you 20 to 30 billion, otherwise last year's Thai baht will be this year's Hong Kong dollar," Soros said coldly. "You don't need to predict how much money I have in my hands here. Hong Kong dollars can never be Thai baht. Since you have predicted me, I will predict you too. The Hong Kong dollars in your hands are worth up to 19 billion US. If you have money, it's really enough, so why bother with it?" Lu Feng supported the trader's chair with one hand and put his feet on it and said, "Rich people won't bother with me, only poor people can bargain. It doesn't make any sense to say this now. I just called you to say that you are definitely a shameless person, because a person with a sense of shame would not do so many tricks on the board." The other end of the phone was a little angry. "Thank you for your affirmation of me. For you, being shameless should be the greatest compliment. But your experience is a bit low. Anyone who has read the book on guerrilla warfare will not be criticized by me." Lu Feng said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, even if you look at it, there's nothing you can do to me. If you come in, I'll protect you, if you hit me, I'll back away, No one will be able to do it. I don't need to engage in a decisive battle with you. I just need to delay it for a few months. When the HK $170 billion contract expires, you will help me raise the price of pens. The person on the other end of the phone was so angry that he almost rolled his eyes. Lu Feng was right. He only needs to hold on to $10.05 now. If you want to redeem the Hong Kong dollars, open a new contract after paying back the Hong Kong dollars. Your $1,000 HK $70 billion is not so easy to escape. If you dare to go long, I will go long together. There is another option, which is to continue the transaction at the position of 10 and 5 yuan. They can't fight hard, and now they are faced with a dilemma. They can't walk away, but they may not be able to win. Robertson's first 5 minutes directly ruined this short-selling plan. Cyrus no longer wanted to hear it. If he continued to listen, he was afraid that he would lose control and beat Robertson, so he hung up the phone directly. Lu Feng took the phone off his ear and muttered, "You're hanging up now? I still want to give you a trick. It doesn't matter if you're trapped in there and can't get out. If you're looking for grievances, let Europe take the blame." The atmosphere inside the Goldman Sachs exchange has become so solemn that people dare not speak. The situation has come to this point, and there is no other way to fight the trapped beast except to fight to the death. However, today is no longer suitable for trading. People must control their emotions. Once financial transactions get involved, it is easy to be ruined. Whether you are selling when it is falling or buying when it is rising, do not do anything unplanned. There are no big moves on Wall Street, and Lu Feng will not let the Hong Kong dollar close at more than 10 yuan. In the last half hour, the price slowly pulled back to 9 yuan. The whole day's market looked like a huge picture. There are two pits. If you step on any of them, it will be difficult to climb out in this life. During this period, with the stabilization of the Hang Seng Index, market confidence has increased slightly. The number of interviews Lu Feng has also reduced, trying to prevent ordinary people from feeling the strong smell of gunpowder smoke. However, Lu Feng has made an appointment for an interview today. He wants to let the air out. This is a staged victory for the Hong Kong dollar and Hong Kong stocks. Lu Feng is well aware of the gambling nature of Wall Street companies. In the previous life, Cyrus short selling lasted for more than a year, and the number of large-scale attacks was no less than 5 times. Although each time I left the market with a loss. But he was persistent in breaking the Hong Kong dollar, simply because he couldn't accept losing money. The gambler's heart was full of trouble, thinking that he could get everything back with one success. And now the Tiger Fund has also fallen into the mentality of this kind of gambler. As long as I sell the iron and add a little more, I will definitely destroy the Hong Kong dollar. Lu Feng accepted this interview to find a way to dispel their mentality and completely accept the outcome of losing his pants. Facing reporters, Lu Feng had a faint smile on his face. He seemed to be in very good condition. The tension and fatigue he felt more than half a month ago had disappeared without a trace. Team leader Lu, can you tell us about the current situation of the Hong Kong dollar? The reporter asked. The Hong Kong dollar has entered the final stage in terms of trading volume, and the power of short selling has seriously declined. Compared with the beginning of September, the power of short selling is less than 1/10, and their fatigue can be seen, Lu Feng replied. So what will be the trend of the Hong Kong dollar next? The reporter asked. Stabilization and recovery are the main directions in the next few months. Returning to the position it should be in. The Hong Kong dollar is an important member of the world. Its value cannot be overthrown by any group or individual. Of course, we will always go and protect the Hong Kong dollar to prevent some people from taking the opportunity to cause trouble, Lu Feng replied. Recent news from Wall Street says that they are predicting that mainland China's foreign exchange funds are rapidly drying up, and that it will be unable to withstand the attacks of Wall Street. Do you have any response to such remarks? the reporter asked. What I want to say is, don't calculate how much foreign exchange reserves we have left. Just like some people like to calculate how many weapons and tanks we have, and whether we can win the battle. If we calculate these, we can calculate a country's capabilities. Then, judging from the paper data, some people were already ruling the earth during World War II. The same goes for financial wars. We have the ability to go into debt, and we also have friends internationally. If they think that the foreign exchange has $100 billion, split it in two, the stock market has 50 billion, and the Hong Kong dollar has 50 billion. As long as they come up with a value of one with hundreds of billions of Hong Kong dollars, Hong Kong will collapse. Then let me tell you, if you take out $100 billion worth of Hong Kong dollars, we can eat it. If you take out another 100 billion, the result will be the same. Don't always try to use your last dollar to crush us. This is impossible. As the interview ended, Lu Feng went to the breakfast room to eat and also called his boss, hoping to raise another $20 billion as soon as possible. $20 billion. Have you used up all the funds in your account now? The funds you operate are fully $70 billion, said the other end of the phone in surprise. There are still 23 billion, but we need to show our determination and let them see the money on the market. Otherwise, those people will not die and only want 20 billion. And I think, these 20 billion are as big as probability is useless. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1262. Latest website. 2 billion? Or US dollars, these words came out of Lu Feng's mouth lightly, but on the other end of the phone, where could the leader find him 20 billion? Mr. Lu, we don't have a money printing machine. You can't be so lavish with money. If you open your mouth to ask for 20 billion US dollars, the money maker wouldn't dare to open such a big mouth. The other end of the phone was frightened by Lu Feng's tone. In today's China, not to mention tens of billions, even 100 million yuan is a huge number. Lu Feng is used to starting at tens of billions in currency and finance. This kind of number tells the leaders that they are scared out of their wits. I don't need this money, but now we need a formation. The more bluffing you can, the better. Lu Feng could tell that he really had no money, so he asked tentatively, how much can you give now? Let me tell you this, there are only 18 billion in foreign exchange left in the national treasury. This money can be used at any time. State-owned enterprises purchase equipment, grain imports, and international bulk trade. This money must not be touched. Telephone. The other end also gave the final answer. Lu Feng was troubled by what he heard. He wanted to take the money first, but no one could bear the risk. This was the last remaining money for the people of the country. If there was any slight disturbance in the international community, it would be a disaster. Then, can you get less? Please apply and get 5 billion, Lu Feng asked. Don't pay attention to this. It's impossible. This is a bottom-line issue. The jobs of the people in the country, let alone a 1 in 10,000 chance of loss, even a 1 in a billion chance won't work. On the other end of the phone cut to the chase. Don't ask for more, 3 billion. It's left to me to figure out a way. As long as the funds come up, we can decide the outcome in one battle. Otherwise, the procrastination will be endless and they won't give up. This matter will never end. Lu Feng expressed his thoughts. Hearing on the other end of the phone that Lu Feng was sure to settle this matter as soon as possible, he began to pay more attention to it. After all, Xiangjiang needs to stabilize as soon as possible and play its due role. After a year and a half of this, the losses are actually calculated. Bigger. I'll report it to you, but I guess you'll need to talk about it personally when the time comes. The other end of the phone agreed. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Lu Feng said politely. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng let out a long yawn. He originally wanted to continue calling to raise some funds, but it was almost 9 o'clock in the morning. If he didn't go back to rest, it would be too late. After arriving home, Lu Feng fell on the bed and fell asleep. Wall Street is not idle either. They are raising as much funds as possible. According to their estimation of how much funds Lu Feng has available for use, they still have less than $20 billion worth of Hong Kong dollars left in their hands. They are now raising funds. After a sum of money, through leverage, it increased to no less than 25 billion. Through analysis, they believe that as long as they hold $30 billion worth of Hong Kong dollars, the Hong Kong dollar will definitely collapse. Once it collapses, the previous losses will not be considered losses, and they may even make a huge profit. At 5 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng woke up and took a shower. He called Maha's assistant directly and asked him to make an appointment for him. He wanted to borrow bridge funds from them in the name of the country. Lu Feng then called all the wealthy people he knew. Everyone on the phone said that they were also in difficulty. With the current economic situation, who wouldn't want to keep more cash on hand? Lu Feng just said, if the world is in trouble, do you care about it? The person on the other end of the phone was basically hemming and hawing, and in the end he said he couldn't offer much, like $1 or $2 million. Lu Feng now wanted not to mention 1 or 2 million, but even $100 or $200. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng called Mr. Lu and briefly explained the matter while eating. He hoped that all people with lofty ideals in Zhongguancun who had US dollars would lend them all to him at twice the bank interest rate. Give yourself the interest. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng called Feng Xiao. After the call was connected, Lu Feng said, Xiao, it's me, Brother Feng. Brother Feng hasn't asked you for anything, but now I have something to ask for. Your door is closed, can you help? Feng Xiao on the other end of the phone was startled. He didn't know what was going on and didn't dare to agree rashly. He just asked tentatively, Brother Feng, have you encountered any difficulties? I haven't encountered any difficulties. Xiangzhang has encountered difficulties. If you have US dollars in your hand, lend them to me to cross the bridge. Lu Feng briefly explained the situation and told him not to spread the matter. Feng Xiao agreed immediately, but now he cannot be the owner of Sun Hongkai alone. He still needs to discuss with the senior management. The problem should not be too big. The reason why Lu Feng didn't wave his hand and set up a flag and let the big guys use US dollars to rescue the market was because he was afraid that the news would leak out. If Wall Street hears any news about Lu Feng's fundraising, the Hong Kong dollar will be in dire straits. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng called the leader again and said that he wanted to borrow a sum of money from Maha personally in the name of the country. Why not borrow it from Thailand, because Thailand also had no money. After getting preliminary permission, Lu Feng began to urge Maha's assistant to report it. He waited for half an hour before he got through the phone. On the phone, Lu Feng explained the general situation. He would personally bear the bridge toll, and the state would use it to cover the costs. Money can be returned in up to 5 working days. At first, Maha was a little evasive. After all, his assets were all in Switzerland, and no one had ever borrowed money from him. Lu Feng asked for $2 billion when he opened his mouth, and the royal family couldn't bear such a loan. Prince Maha, have you ever heard how the Qin state cannibalized the 6 kingdoms during the Warring States period? It is said in the treatise on the 6 kingdoms that 5 cities will be cut off today and 10 cities will be cut off tomorrow. Then you have to sleep overnight and look at the surrounding areas. The Qin soldiers are here again, Lu Feng said to the phone. To put it bluntly, this money is not lent to me, but to protect the Thai baht. When Wall Street breaks the Hong Kong dollar, will it counterattack the Thai baht? This truth is that I need to be more honest. What should I say? The other end of the phone hesitated for a moment and then said seriously, borrow it? After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng thought about whether to call Sean, but then he thought, he is a European after all, and this person is only interested in profit and cannot be trusted, so he might as well forget it. As various funds arrived one after another, Lu Feng counted the US dollars on his books and found that he had almost raised and borrowed around 19 billion. Adding the original 23 billion, it would be more than 42 billion, which is definitely enough. It's just that due to transfer reasons, it won't all arrive today, so it must be blocked tonight. The media has begun to build momentum, and newspapers in the evening have put Lu Feng on the headlines, including some exaggerated tabloids claiming that the decisive battle for the Hong Kong dollar is coming, and who will win will be determined soon. There is a martial arts style throughout, as if finance has become an elegant duel, and killing the opponent only requires one sword to seal the throat. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng arrived at the exchange on time. He held a pre-market meeting and briefly explained the situation. He now only has 26 billion in hand, including Lu Feng's personal $1.2 billion. Lu Feng didn't know how much money Wall Street had raised, but once the other party launched a charge tonight, the 26 billion was a bit too much, so he needed to wait until this Friday. After tonight, there will be 2 days, next Monday it's never too late to fight again. The question is, how can we stop them from taking action now? As the market opened, the two sides interacted tepidly, pulling back and forth on the $9 position. On Wall Street, everyone was staring at the market at the moment. People who saw this kind of garbage market were upset. Robertson frowned and said, "Try it?" "It's better to be careful," Soros reminded, "don't have too much money. Let's try throwing 30 billion Hong Kong dollars first." As the selling order appeared, the Hong Kong dollar did not resist violently, but began to retreat. Lu Feng immediately asked the trader to cancel the order, and then began to defend the $10 position. Withdrawn, everyone in the Goldman Sachs exchange was a little surprised. Why order cancellation? Logically speaking, he should be trading with his left hand instead of his right hand. Doesn't canceling the order mean that he is afraid of being eaten up? A manager next to him analyzed. He has no money. No money? This is impossible. First of all, Lu Feng should have 20 billion in operable funds. It shouldn't be like this. Now he is too lazy to do anything with his left hand and his right hand. Robertson stared at the board for a long time and said in a deep voice, "The strong will be weak, and the weak will be strong." These words touched the hearts of many people. The more Lu Feng behaved like this, the more they felt that there was a big hole behind them. Now if Lu Feng behaved fiercely and ate him up in one bite, it would definitely be a sign of a strong character and internal conflict. Don't throw it away yet, let's go sideways and see what he wants to do. The market has entered into strange fluctuations. The trading volume has dropped sharply. The fluctuation is only 1 or 2 cents. The value of the transactions in the middle is several million. There are tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars at the top and billions of US dollars at the bottom. Everyone just so big-eyed and small-eyed. Compared with the fatigue of the previous few days, today's traders seem to have nothing to do. The trader close to Lu Feng asked, "Team leader Lu, why do you think he doesn't dare to smash it?" "He's afraid of being eaten," Lu Feng looked at the plate and said with a smile. "Since he is afraid of us, why doesn't he attack?" he asked again. "Because they can't afford to lose, and we can't afford to lose. Everyone has almost all their trump cards." Lu Feng made an analogy to everyone and said, "If you fight with someone who is about the same strength as you, are you very cautious?" Then before the fight started, the other party suddenly took off his pants. "Do you still dare to go up to him?" Everyone nodded, but they didn't feel they understood. After more than half an hour, there was no movement from either side. Lu Feng ordered the trader, "Move back, put the funds at $10 and $9, and defend $11. As Lu Feng retreated again, people at the Goldman Sachs exchange began to get excited. If the volume was increased at this position, part of the Hong Kong dollars sold before could be recovered. But the problem is that currently the largest holder of Hong Kong dollars in the market is Xiangjiang. It is impossible for people to sell Hong Kong dollars at this position. Unknowingly, the morning session was over, and both parties stared at each other all morning without doing anything. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1263. Latest website. As the morning session ended, Lu Feng's midnight snack was also delivered. While eating, he reviewed the order. Several managers were quite optimistic about this morning's deterrent strategy. We just need to continue this approach in the afternoon session to get through today. Lu Feng shook his head after hearing this and said, "No, you can't treat those people as fools. They don't dare to act rashly in the morning session. They will definitely test it in the afternoon session. Once they realize that this is a window of opportunity, they will definitely risk their lives today, so in the afternoon session need to be tough." Lu Feng's guess was good. Everyone in the Goldman Sachs exchange was holding a meeting. They thought that it would not be a problem if the stalemate continued like this. They always had to test whether it was true or false, and they would know it through a confrontation. Moreover, the amount of funds of both parties should be similar, so no one can try to eat the other in one go. After a simple late-night snack, the afternoon trading officially started. It was already late midnight in Hong Kong time. As trading started, selling orders began to fall, and tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars began to hit the 11-digit position. "Eat them all," Lu Feng said solemnly, "pull it up. Pull it up to 9.5 yuan. The transaction volume surged in an instant. Not only was the tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars thrown out eaten up, but not a single cent of the 20 billion Hong Kong dollars hovering above was left. In these few dozen seconds, Lu Feng had consumed $3 billion. At the Goldman Sachs exchange, everyone looked at the 30 billion Hong Kong dollars that had been eaten. At this moment, they felt a little scared. Sarah said from the side, "I really can't wait. It's much stronger than in the morning." "Humph, do you really think I can jump into a pit twice?" Robertson seemed to have seen through everything and said solemnly, "He just wants to eat me in the low position and let me increase the deposit. Everyone's capital situation is about the same. We should trade at a high level to let him consume more US dollars," said the person in charge of Goldman Sachs. "But if the transaction is done at a high level, these short sellers will become long." However, Lu Feng is not a fool. At this time, he will not raise the price and lose the funds in his hands. As a result, the two sides reached a stalemate again, and a funny side appeared on the market. The shorts turned into longs, and the longs turned into shorts. Everyone was trying to find ways to consume the funds in the other party's hands. "Today we only accept prices of 9.5 to 11 yuan. If they dare to short, we dare to buy. If there are a lot of transactions at this price, the funds in our hands will be more than 10% more than theirs," Lu Feng commanded. Time passed by minute by second, and the market seemed to fluctuate greatly, but the trading volume was very small. Except for 30 billion Hong Kong dollars traded in that minute, the total trading volume until the closing was only 50 billion Hong Kong dollars. As the market closed, Lu Feng's hanging heart finally calmed down. As long as the funds are in place on Monday, Wall Street's outcome has been determined. The war that took more than a month will finally come to an end. The sky outside has turned gray with white light. Over the past month, Lu Feng has become accustomed to this kind of work rhythm. There are no holidays on Saturdays and Sundays. Please work hard, everyone, compile this week's situation into a report, submit it to the top, and review the situation of this week. Lu Feng clapped his hands and said, "Everyone, please work hard. Although he said it was not hard, the look of fatigue and reluctance on his face showed that he had been tortured beyond endurance. Lu Feng is okay, he can go home, and his daily phone calls are fine. Apart from him, the team leader, there are 6 deputy team leaders, 5 managers, more than 20 traders, and some currency professionals. People, teams of hundreds of people all live in apartments. Under the principle of confidentiality, external contact is not allowed. There are cameras in the corridors of the residence, not to mention that the cameras in the exchange are state-of-the-art, requiring the cameras to be able to see the computer screen and see every transaction. Lu Feng himself also needs to explain and report every transaction. To put it bluntly, you can spend money, but you have to explain clearly the logic behind how you spend the money. Lu Feng also had a headache on Saturdays and Sundays, and he had to write a weekly report himself. After leaving the exchange, Lu Feng went straight to his home. Because he could not manage hurricane capital during this period, there were some things he still needed to do. Wei Yandan placed a 3-person secretarial team at Lu Feng's home. It was mainly to report on the situation of the senior management. When Lu Feng returned home, the nanny on duty told Lu Feng that a lot of documents had accumulated in the home office. At 5:30 in the morning, Lu Feng rushed into the office he opened at home and began to look at the company's recent situation. Sharp had been under pressure more than 10 days ago and suspended cooperation between the two parties. We are now in an embarrassing period. The technology of LCD screens has been almost communicated, and some things have even begun to be tested. Patent cross-licensing is just about to happen, and something has gone wrong. The situation reported by Zhu Lidong was that the Fuzhou Ministry of Foreign Affairs put pressure on the matter to be postponed, otherwise they would be under too much pressure. Some people in the United States are increasing their efforts, and some private groups have begun to exert their efforts to demand an end to the negotiations between the two sides. Cooperation leads to greater public opinion. Sharp even held a press conference to stand up and apologize, saying something that hurt everyone's feelings. Zhu Lidong was running around there, and several heads of departments at Sharp had a good relationship with Liuqin. They said privately that if this matter slowed down, it might take several years. Liuqin's idea was to put the research and development of LCD screens on hold and make breakthroughs in other directions. He gave the way for direction. Zhang Ruhing's team can be said to have made rapid progress in this area and can catch up with the international front line in 2 or 3 years at most. As for Zhu Lidong, who came from the market, he thought that if he ignored the patent and used it directly, then if he asked them to sue, he would lose some money at most. Even if he compensated Sharp with all the profits earned in a few years, he would still be able to gain market share. Lu Feng thought for a while and wrote at the back of the folder that he agreed with Zhu Lidong's suggestion. He wanted to use this technology first, and at the same time win over Sharp as soon as possible. As for the contract signed between the two parties, it would be a good thing to be able to cooperate for the time being. If this matter continues to be pushed forward, and when they ask Hurricane Semiconductor to compensate for patent infringement, we will ask them to pay liquidated damages and return the patent fees, interest, and other expenses originally paid. There is a lot of bad news, but there is also good news. The hydropower transformation of the Tianjin factory is coming to an end and it can produce at full capacity. Multiple core products such as processors, storage, hard drives, and communication chips have been iterated and have now entered the small-scale mass production testing stage. It is expected to be mass-produced by the end of the year to prepare for next year's national centralized procurement. It has also reached a cooperation agreement with Huawei's Integrated Circuit Design Center to cooperate in multiple aspects of wireless networks and fixed networks. At the same time, Sweden's Ruxan R/U0026D Center is expected to be upgraded next year. The rise of Nokia in the global mobile phone market has made them pay attention to the research and development of mobile phones, hoping to increase investment in research and development next year. Hurricane Semiconductor has 2 options. One is to increase investment as well, and the other is to gradually transfer the rights of the Ruxin R/U00260 center to Nokia. Lu Feng knew that they were interested in this R/U00260 center and wanted to use money to squeeze away Hurricane Semiconductor. Naturally, Lu Feng couldn't agree to this kind of thing. He simply wrote that we will pay as much as they pay. There were more than a dozen folders with messy contents. Lu Feng yawned while drinking coffee. He flipped through and saw a resignation letter. When he opened it, it turned out to be Du Guoying's resignation letter. He said in it that after coming to Xiangjiang, he could not find the core of his work. He mainly did some supporting work for Zhu Lidong and Liukan. The mobile phone business was basically gone. He wanted to resign and return to the mainland to start a business. He was very grateful to Mr. Lu for these few days. Years of promotion and training. Lu Feng frowned as he read the resignation letter and asked him to return to the mainland. At this time, he knew it was best to do so without asking. Lu Feng looked at the time. It was already 8 o'clock in the morning. He got up and went to the restaurant to eat. He took out his mobile phone and called Du Guoying. This person must stay. He will return to the mainland next year to invest and establish a mobile phone brand. Talking about marketing, no one in the company can match him at the moment. After making several calls, no one answered the phone. Lu Feng made 5 or 6 calls at once after dinner. It was not until 9 o'clock in the morning that Du Guoying answered the phone. "Who is this?" the other end of the phone said sleepily. "It's me, Lu Feng. I read your resignation letter, but I don't approve it. I can understand your complaints. But if you can't sit on the bench, how can you become popular in the future?" Lu Feng said a little seriously, "You are not busy with the work you are responsible for now. Isn't this an opportunity for self-improvement? I wish I could be as free as you, but I am so busy that I don't even have time to sleep. Originally, I didn't think so. What do I need to talk to you senior executives about? Now it seems that I have to talk to you. We are not going to be a semiconductor company living in Hong Kong, but a large comprehensive group. The development we have now is a temporary measure and a last resort. I planned to keep you idle for 1.5 years before sending you back to the mainland. Since you are so afraid of idle time, let me give you something. Recently, a team was transferred from the group headquarters to go back to the mainland. I will give you a budget of 6 million yuan to set up a mobile phone project team to be responsible for mobile phones and communications in the mainland. A series of research on suppliers, market research, brands, partners, etc. The project is tentatively called Giddy. When I go back next year, I hope you have figured out everything. How about this task?" When the person on the other end of the phone heard that he was responsible for such a large project, he immediately became energetic. He sat up and said, "Mr. Lu, are you really going to go back to the mainland to invest in and build a factory next year?" "Do you think I'm kidding you?" Lu Feng asked. "Du Guoying knows the current situation of the company. What kind of investment will he get when he goes back next year? Where does the money come from? If it were anyone else, he would really have to ask about the funding issue, but here with Lu Feng, money doesn't seem to be a big issue. Okay, I'll take the front line and set up a project team today. By the way, you have to tell Mr. Wei about this, otherwise I won't be able to mobilize any resources," Du Guoying said helplessly. "I'll call her later." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1264. Latest website. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng's face was full of fatigue. Lu Feng has always been relatively relaxed about high-level management. They have very large decision-making power on projects. There is no problem in the general direction. Lu Feng generally does not interfere. However, the internal group is obviously dominated by 3 veterans, Zhu Lidong, Liukan, and Wei Yandan. Originally, Lu Feng handed over the mobile phone business to Du Guoying just to balance the situation and to accumulate some experience in the future. Unexpectedly, he is still young, unable to hold back his anger, and anxious to make money and stand out. But after thinking about it, he understands that working is also to make money. Lu Feng has some idealism in him, but you can't ask everyone to have this spirit. Lu Feng knew that after returning to the mainland to rebuild the factory, the rotating president method would still be implemented. This was the best way to avoid internal cliques and use power to bully others. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng really couldn't bear it any longer. He returned to the bedroom and fell asleep. During this period, there was no insomnia at all. The matter of Lu Feng's desire to obtain another $5 billion in foreign exchange has been reported, and everyone is having a heated discussion. Some people believe that it must not be touched. Once this kind of thing is leaked, it will be a crisis for the country. Some people think that if we need to move, we can move it. There is no problem with domestic grain reserves, and if this matter is delayed any longer, it will only cause more serious problems. The two sides argued endlessly, and many of them were dissatisfied with Lu Feng and believed that it was inappropriate to leave this matter to a businessman like him, especially since Lu Feng also put his own funds into it, which could easily cause the loss of state-owned assets. Question. Lu Feng knew some domestic experts quite well, so before he participated in the project with his own funds, he wrote an explanation on the use of funds and submitted it. Lu Feng's own funds will never make a penny. All the interest generated by external borrowing and bridging funds will be personally advanced. Every transaction in Hong Kong dollars will be recorded, and all surveillance videos in the exchange will be recorded. All are saved and recorded, and all daily phone calls are recorded for easy viewing at any time. Even so, there are still people who keep talking about Lu Feng's insistence on going home to rest every day and avoid surveillance. Lu Feng also thought about living together in an apartment at that time, but hurricane capital was at a critical moment. If it could be done in a month, that would be fine. If it dragged on for a year like in the previous life, the company would probably fall apart after he came out. For this matter, I still applied for special approval. They couldn't decide on such a major matter, so they had no choice but to report it. That afternoon they had a phone call with the leadership of the People's Bank of China, and finally decided to talk to Lu Feng and ask him what he thought. At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng was woken up by his nanny and told him that he had an important call to answer. Lu Feng used the landline to answer the call from the leader of the People's Bank of China. After chatting for more than 10 minutes, he asked Lu Feng not to hang up and they transferred to the internal line. After waiting for a few minutes, the call was connected, and a slightly thick voice came from the other end. "Hello, Lu Feng." "Hello," Lu Feng replied. "I already know the matter. This is a very important matter. I still want to hear your thoughts and judgment on the current situation of the Hong Kong dollar." The other end of the phone asked, "How much funds have been raised now?" "If these 5 billion are in place, approximately $19 billion will be raised," Lu Feng replied. "The daily interest on these funds is a lot of money, right?" the other end of the phone said, slightly surprised. "It is estimated that for 2 days, more than $200 million will need to be paid in interest. This amount will be borne by me personally. The current funding situation is that the amount of funds of both parties is about the same. The other party's main method is to short sell and then bring with profits left. During this time at a low level, they have invested a large amount of funds and cannot withdraw it. In order to escape with funds, they are calculating our financial situation. The strength of both parties is almost the same, so the other party will have a fluke mentality and continue to increase the bets. If this continues, it will put greater pressure on our funds, so now we need a huge amount of funds. Enough money to make them give up their resistance and force them to surrender," Lu Feng explained seriously. The person on the other end of the phone laughed and said, You are like a rabbit trap in the countryside. You have already trapped the rabbit's legs. You are afraid that he will struggle and break the rope. You need a stick to make him accept his fate. You explained it very vividly, Lu Feng said with a smile. Since you are so confident, I'll give you a stick, the other end of the phone agreed. When Lu Feng heard this, his heart finally dropped into his stomach. After a few polite words, he hung up the phone, then reported the situation and said he would submit this week's weekly report on Sunday. After finishing working on the Hong Kong dollar matter, Lu Feng called Wei Yandan to have dinner together in the evening, talk about the company's situation, and talk about Du Guoying by the way. During dinner, Su Yurong called her and asked her if she was busy recently. She hadn't seen her for a while. Lu Feng said that he didn't have time, and he wasn't allowed to contact people outside now. Su Yurong asked when she had time. Lu Feng told her to keep it confidential and then hung up the phone. Su Yurong called again and didn't answer the phone. She was a little annoyed and smashed the phone. There was a physical examination report on the table. She didn't go to the company during this time, and she was even more indifferent to the company's stock price. I go to bed early and get up early every day, and eat balanced nutrition. My mental state seems to be much better, I am also a little fatter, and I am a little more charming. In the past few days, the equity changes of the 3 shareholders of United Capital have been completed. When Su Yurong learned that Lu Feng had directly purchased 23% of the equity, he knew that United Capital was now completely out of control. After calling the 3 shareholders, they were already overseas. Su Yurong scolded them on the phone, calling them stupid for selling their equity to Lu Feng at the lowest price and now selling it on the secondary market. Can all be sold with a valuation of more than 6 billion. The 3 of them don't know how Xiangjiang will evolve in the future, but they just want to get rid of it early. What's more, when you, Mr. Su, were in charge of the company, your treatment of shareholders was mediocre, and the dividends were very generous. The economy is not good, and the financial dinners that used to come one after another are now gone. Su Yurong's dinner parties have been suspended for more than a month. A large number of rich people are fleeing. Even Su Yurong has been thinking about going abroad some time ago. It's just that she is unwilling to leave now and has already converted some assets into US dollars. As long as she gets what she wants, she will go overseas immediately. There are rumors everywhere in business circles that the Hong Kong dollar cannot hold on. Regarding the foreign exchange situation in mainland China, some media in the United States are exaggerating the theory of the collapse of the Hong Kong dollar, exacerbating the loss of some local Hong Kong dollars. Invisibly, these people help short the Hong Kong dollar. Su Yurong opened an account in a Swiss bank and deposited all her assets there except equity and real estate, totaling 18 million US dollars. This was all the money she had accumulated in the past few years. As for United Capital's equity, she didn't want to touch it. This was the capital for her final counterattack. Besides, Su Yurong's equity in United Capital, which is valued at HK$ 6 billion, is now worth only HK$ 2.4 billion, which is only HK$ 240 million when converted to US dollars at a ratio of 1:10. This money was too little for Su Yurong, especially compared with Lu Feng. At her current level, it was not just money, but social status that was more important. Lu Feng was extremely busy in 2 days. He settled the company and had 2 phone calls with Sharp's president. He hoped that the 2 parties could continue to cooperate, and Hurricane Semiconductor was also willing to deepen cooperation in terms of R/U0026D centers, personnel exchanges, and financial support, market support, and other directions to fully cooperate. On Sunday, at 11 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng received a call from Robertson. It was nothing more than to persuade Lu Feng not to make unnecessary resistance. The other party reported a lot of false data on the phone and told Lu Feng that they still had trillions in their hands. After the Hong Kong dollar short order opens next Monday, he will no longer have any hope. And we had a heart-to-heart talk on the phone. If you like to make semiconductors, you can come to Silicon Valley. The industry here is complete, and various high-tech companies can become partners, and they have the ability to cover the world in business scope. Lu Feng couldn't help but smile after hearing his heartfelt words. If I leave my country, it doesn't matter what I do. If I were in my own country, I would plant a technological tree. Technology knows no borders, Robertson advised. When you need it, everything can be divided into national borders, Lu Feng said to the phone. You said you have trillions of Hong Kong dollars, just right. I have hundreds of billions of US dollars, and I hope to see trillions of dollars on the market tomorrow. On the board, one game determines life or death, whoever loses is the puppy. Okay, I won't tell you any more. If I make a phone call like this, I have to write a report. Hang up. Lu Feng hung up the phone. Robertson on the other end was a little confused. There were 7 or 8 people sitting on the sofa next to him. Everyone heard what he just said. Hundreds of billions of dollars, Sarah said in disbelief. Where did he come from? This is not credible. It seems that they have also decided to decide whether to live or die tomorrow, and they can't afford to delay it. The choice of both parties was unanimous, and everyone was at the end of their rope. Everyone was analyzing Lu Feng's words on the phone call just now, and even the tone and emotion of the words. When Robertson asked Lu Feng to come to Silicon Valley, Lu Feng's tone was firm and without hesitation. This person was destined to be impossible to win over. However, when he mentioned trillions of Hong Kong dollars, Lu Feng paused. Everyone believes that Lu Feng definitely does not have hundreds of billions of dollars in his hands. Make another call and raise the amount to HK$ 300 billion and see his reaction, said the Goldman Sachs president. They just wanted to explore Lu Feng's background. While chatting, they suddenly turned the topic to funds to test Lu Feng's first reaction. This reaction best explained the situation. If Lu Feng did not show absolute confidence in the value of 300 billion Hong Kong dollars at the first time, then even if the bottom is found, they will have absolute victory when the market opens tomorrow. It's a pity that Lu Feng didn't give them a chance. When he called again, he stopped answering the phone. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1265. Latest website. This night was torturous for Lu Feng. He couldn't sleep and couldn't start his work. He could only sit in the living room and smoke one cigarette after another, reading some information from time to time. It wasn't until after 6 o'clock in the morning that I ate breakfast and went to sleep. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng woke up and answered a few calls, and then rushed to the exchange. Today is different from the previous half-month. Today's trading volume will be huge. At the same time, so much funds are all pressed here, and the leaders dare not take it lightly. It can be said that today is definitely the day when the most leaders have come. The meeting started at noon to ensure that there are no problems in various tasks. In order to boost morale, a banner was even put up with the slogan "Defend Hong Kong and fight to the bitter end." The atmosphere at the scene was serious, and everyone had a serious expression on their faces. After Lu Feng arrived, he held a meeting as soon as possible to study various possible situations and make plans. After more than 3 hours of discussion, he came up with 3 sets of alternative plans. Everything went well and developed according to Lu Feng's vision. Then naturally, this is the best, but once a situation occurs where there are too many short-selling funds, it cannot be taken on. The funds borrowed by Lu Feng through the bridge must be preserved. Once these funds are consumed, Lu Feng will be the first to go bankrupt, and the second is that the country will be in debt. The response in the plan is to unplug the network cable, but at this time, there is not much to worry about. From various trading strategies, avoiding trading traps, to understanding the situation of the opponent's funds, everything was explained. At 6 o'clock in the evening, they had a group dinner. After the meal, Lu Feng was interviewed by the TV station. Facing the camera, Lu Feng was in very good condition. He told reporters that tonight is the time to completely blow up Wall Street. The other party is at the end of its rope, and we still have a huge amount of funds in our hands. He also warned some speculators who took the opportunity to short the Hong Kong dollar. Don't go short blindly, as your position may be liquidated tonight. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng entered the trading room. All 15 traders were in place. Lu Feng looked at last Friday's trading data on the big screen and said to everyone, "Today's opening, there is no strategy, just remember one thing, we can't let them have the slightest chance to press on and eat, and we must create an absolute bullish situation. We have plenty of funds. Don't be afraid when trading. If they dare to come up, we dare to eat them." The overall status is highlighted by one word: fierce. As fierce as you want, it's so fierce that they can't believe it. The traders' emotions were particularly high. It was obvious that everyone was going to take a breath tonight. Lu Feng said to everyone, "Come. Shout a slogan. Defend the Hong Kong dollar. Drive away the tiger and devour the wolf. Defend the Hong Kong dollar. Drive away the tiger and devour the wolf." In New York, at the Goldman Sachs Trading Center, everyone arrived at around 6 a.m. and held a pre-market meeting to formulate trading strategies and alternative plans. They believed that Lu Feng was bluffing during this period. After 2 days of various research, they believed that Lu Feng only had more than 20 billion in funds at his disposal. In the past 2 days, they had raised nearly $1 billion in principal. It can leverage tens of billions of dollars worth of Hong Kong dollars. Worth $30 billion in Hong Kong dollars, they have enough confidence. The main thing tonight is a head-on confrontation. Before the market opened, Robertson and Soros gave speeches to traders respectively, arousing all emotions. "We have nothing to be afraid of. The most courageous thing in the world is money. When we have unrivaled funds, then there is no country in the world that cannot be conquered. We will do a great thing tonight, we will make history. We have an absolute advantage. Just tonight, we will completely crush the Hong Kong dollar." The traders on the scene were so excited that they would turn into hungry wolves of the market and tear all the bulls to pieces. At 8:30 in the evening in Xiangjiang, currency trading officially started. Lu Feng stared at the market and ordered, "Stop guarding 9 yuan, go straight to 8 yuan, eat as much as you can, and crush them to death." Buying orders were instantly guaranteed, and many small short sellers could only stare at the $5 billion of buying orders. This was the momentum when the market opened, and no one was afraid of it. At the Goldman Sachs Trading Center, Robertson shouted, "Suppress it. This arrogance must be suppressed. All 5 billion will be smashed." The sound of the buttons on the trading site was like the crackling of loaded bullets. The trading data on the market seemed to be on a high speed, with transactions being completed at a rapid pace. The high K line on the market was quickly suppressed. "If you dare to make a deal at 8 yuan, you are simply seeking death," Soros said solemnly. Lu Feng's heart suddenly twitched when he saw that the other party was so tough, but he must not show a trace of weakness at this time, otherwise the traders would lack confidence and the leaders outside would be afraid. At this moment, the heartbeat of the leader sitting outside the glass window has accelerated, and his blood pressure has also risen a little. A few minutes after the opening, 5 billion was just gone? Lu Feng said he wanted to raise his head high and hit him high, but the other party didn't hesitate at all. "Pull," Lu Feng said angrily, "the top is only 3 billion, so let's eat another 3 billion. The exchange was very quiet, except for the sound of the keyboard. Lu Feng could even hear the nervous breathing of the traders around him. Everyone was staring at the market. Every transaction must be timely and accurate to avoid being withdrawn. Chasing the high after a single move. 10 minutes after the market opened, $8 billion was traded. The transaction data broke a record high. The Hong Kong dollar was pulled up to the level of $8. The time-sharing line also reopened a K-line, indicating a continuous upward trend. In the Goldman Sachs exchange, Robertson and Saras were a little unsure about Lu Feng's toughness. They didn't know why Lu Feng was so fierce. It was like a man rushing towards you like crazy, and they instinctively wanted to avoid it. But now we can never escape, we can only overcome the fear in our hearts and fight to the death. Put it down, press it to 9 yuan, Robertson said angrily, pull out a long negative line. A huge amount of selling orders were sold, and a downward line was quickly pulled down on the time-sharing line. The value of the trading volume was like an astronomical figure, which made people need to count them with their fingers. 15 minutes, $13 billion in transaction. At this moment, not only were the psychological qualities of the transaction directors of both parties considered, but some people outside the court were frightened. In the European financial city, John and a group of senior executives looked at the market and secretly wondered how much money was there. These people had already spent money. It cannot be said to be like flowing water, it is simply a waterfall. At this moment, Sean was particularly glad that he had withdrawn early. According to this transaction volume, today's transaction volume would probably exceed 100 billion. He didn't know where China got so much foreign exchange, but the current fierceness of the fight would crush funds of his level. Is already a piece of cake. However, Sean has a better understanding of the situation on Wall Street. Judging from this level of brutality, it looks like there will be a lot of trouble on Wall Street tonight. The funds above are getting less and less, and they can't do this. They could have raised 3 billion before, but now there are only 2 billion left. Lu Feng saw the hands of the two traders starting to shake, and started to mock. Mode, said, if this level of transactions happens a few more times, they will collapse and eat them. The leaders on the sidelines don't know whether Wall Street will collapse, but they know that if transactions of this intensity happen a few more times, they will definitely collapse. Some of them can no longer hold their breath and whisper to start an alternative plan. But no one agrees with this suggestion. Once the network cable is unplugged, it means discouragement. Trading is like a fight. If you dare to be cruel, I will be 10 times crueler than you. Whoever gives in will lose. What is important is psychological conquest. 21 minutes after the market opened, $15 billion was traded, and the price of the Hong Kong dollar rose to 8 yuan again. There were traces of a fierce battle between the two sides on the market, with several K-lines going straight up and down. Robertson felt that his throat was dry and his hands were shaking involuntarily. Half of their funds were spent in 21 minutes. The atmosphere in the Goldman Sachs trading center was so tense that they could not breathe. The huge psychological pressure made everyone breathless. Saras found that everyone's mood was generally not right, and hurriedly said, "Don't trade now, pause for half an hour to watch their actions. I don't think the other party has the possibility of killing us. If he dares to continue, make your own judgment." This statement was immediately agreed by everyone present, but a seed of frustration has already grown in my heart. Anyone who has done transactions knows that when you are no longer confident, people will hesitate, fear failure, and even dare not place an order. I didn't know what to expect after placing my order. Lu Feng's nerves were also tense. He put one hand on his back and held it tightly, his palms were already sweating, and he just spent $15 billion. The funds he can use are only more than 260, and now he is not even half of it. As long as the other party comes with more than 5 billion in funds, a sudden rush will definitely break through the psychological defenses of everyone present. Even if Lu Feng could bear it, the leaders outside would still have to deal with it. The trading data on the market is slowing down. After several huge trading volume pillars, there is an invisible trading volume. The clock on the wall is ticking. Everyone is waiting for the next wave of market crashes. After waiting for 5 minutes, the plate was not smashed. Lu Feng showed a smile on his face, looked at everyone and said, "They don't dare to come." The sudden words startled several traders who were highly concentrated. They accidentally pressed the key on the keyboard and instantly made a transaction of 500 million, directly raising the price to 7.9 yuan. "Take your hands off the keyboard and mouse," Lu Feng shouted hurriedly, "get out if you are in a bad state." Replacement immediately. The K line that was originally slightly stable on the market suddenly increased by 1 section. Traders at the Goldman Sachs exchange very quickly sold more than 4 billion Hong Kong dollars, pushing the price back to 8 yuan, but leaving a bar on the market. Spike. "What's going on?" Robertson asked in panic. Suddenly 500 million came out, and then there was no movement, the trader replied, "It's like a black finger." Several people stared at the computer screen, but at this moment, there were ripples in their hearts. Was this a false accusation, or was Lu Feng's ridicule and provocation to them? Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1266. Latest website. In this moment of tension between the two sides, it is normal for an own finger to appear, but for the equally nervous Wall Street people, this is more like a mockery. In such a situation, whether we need to fight back has now become the biggest question. Everyone is hesitant in their hearts. When they lose the courage to trade, the first thing they think of is that once they fight back, they will encounter more violent attacks. Don't move for the time being. They are now exhausted. We don't need to press too hard. Robertson found a step for himself and asked the traders to maintain the market. A few people went out to hold an impromptu meeting. After leaving the trading center, Robertson strode into the bathroom, grabbed cold water on the sink, rinsed his face, looked at himself in the mirror, and took a few deep breaths. The remaining people also lit up cigarettes and cigars, smoking more quickly. At this moment, everyone's hearts were as unpeaceful as a burning fire cooking oil. Robertson came out and looked at the people and said, "Where did he get so much money? Where did he get the confidence? Who made him so tough?" Everyone here wants to know these questions, but no one knows what is happening on the other side of the earth. They cannot see what the face on the other side of the computer looks like. What to do now? Robertson lit up a cigarette and took a long puff, feeling anxious. "Look at me, Lu Feng is almost out of gas, otherwise he wouldn't stop. Now he's just engaging in psychological warfare," Saras analyzed. "It's definitely a possibility. He doesn't have that much money in his hands. At this stage, there is no possibility of retreating." The president of Goldman Sachs took a sip of his cigar and said, "Let me see, let's spend the remaining tens of billions today. Put the money out and see how they react, and if their reaction isn't strong enough, raise some more money after the market closes." These words gave everyone some confidence. As long as they spend the remaining tens of billions of dollars in their hands, once Lu Feng starts giving away, a fatal blow will come tomorrow. Even if they buy a house or a car, these people will have to borrow money with high interest rates. After encouraging each other and increasing their confidence, everyone returned to the trading center and asked the traders. In the past hour or so, there was no movement at all from the opponent's market. "It seems they are not as tough as expected," Robertson said with a little pride on his face. Xiangjiang, Lu Feng left the trading room an hour ago and chatted with a group of leaders for an hour, mainly focusing on Lu Feng's methods. The neighboring leaders said that their hearts could not stand it. If a transaction of this magnitude were to happen twice more, Lu Feng, there is no money in hand. But once it is smashed down, what will it hold up? What about the money from the loan? How can I redeem it tomorrow? Doesn't this let the other party see that you are weak? After half a day of discussion, the result was that both sides were prepared. If there were funds that exceeded the scope, they could bear up to 10%, which means no more than $2 billion US. Once this amount of funds was exceeded, the network cable would be unplugged. And this time must not be too short. Trading should be suspended for at least 1 week to raise funds. If it cannot be stopped within a short period of time, then whether to continue to maintain the anchoring of the Hong Kong dollar and the US dollar, you need to apply for a decision from above. After this conversation, Lu Feng understood that if it didn't work out tonight, the Hong Kong dollar might not be guaranteed. Even though he knew the ending of history, he was still sweating when faced with this problem. After all, there are so many changes now compared to the previous life. He is no longer facing Soros, but Robertson. If the Hong Kong dollar is forced to decouple from the US dollar, Lu Feng will be the sinner of history. Less than 10 minutes before the market closed in the morning, Lu Feng walked into the exchange. Several nervous traders had been replaced. Lu Feng briefly asked about the situation, but there was not much fluctuation in the market. The two sides came up and fought head-on for a few times, and everyone felt the pain. As the last minute passed and the morning session officially closed, both parties involuntarily breathed a sigh of relief deep in their hearts. Lu Feng did not dare to stop and immediately summoned everyone to conduct a review. At the same time, he had to guard against the emergence of false fingers and divide the funds. If someone threw out tens of billions with a false finger, there would really be no place to cry. At the meeting, Lu Feng made arrangements for the afternoon session. It depends on the opponent's situation. If it is within tens of billions of funds, it depends on their strength. Don't be afraid of the afternoon session. The stronger they are and the more they struggle, the more they must suppress them. With tens of billions of funds, we have nothing to fear. Don't think about what to do tomorrow. If you can't survive tonight, you won't be able to see the sun in the morning. Lu Feng said to the crowd, don't be afraid when trading, especially for 1 minute. On the K line, don't be intermittent, just like that person who can't stop peeing, pitter-patter. Trading. Just show that you are stupid and have a lot of money, otherwise he will think that you are easy to bully. You are weak if you should be strong or not. Don't have any psychological burden. If your hands are shaking when you place an order, do you think you are? Spend your money. Why do you feel bad about spending the country's money? If something goes wrong, I will be the one to take responsibility, and you are fine. You should have a good attitude. Don't pay for it. The thread is just there, and as soon as the funds come out, it will be gone. If it stays there, it's the Dingai Shenzhen, you know. The leaders next to him looked at Lu Feng, saying that it was really not a waste of his money, and that they didn't feel bad at all. However, at this time, Lu Feng said whatever he said, and it was not easy for them to interrupt. When trading starts in the afternoon, find 3 people to form a team, mainly to take charge of the other 20 billion. As for this part of the money, as the bottom-breaking funds, the operation must be fast. It does not mean that this part of the money will be left behind. The position doesn't move, those people are very smart, it's easy to see. Big funds must continue to push forward with the funds in front, but one thing is that once it exceeds 10 billion, you have to be quick and cancel the order immediately to prevent unexpected events. Lu Feng asked the crowd, are there any other questions? Team leader Lu, with more than 20 billion in funds, 3 people can't complete the process of placing orders or canceling orders. Give it to 5 people. Then let's pick 5 people and pick 5 with a good mentality. Things like this must never happen. Do you understand? Lu Feng asked the crowd. Clear. That's fine, let's have a midnight snack. Lu Feng stood up and prepared to end the meeting. Several leaders motioned for Lu Feng to stay. After everyone left, they asked Lu Feng, What you just said was that you should continue to push that part of the funds on the market. Do you want to be in a front position? Yes. For example, if the exchange rate is 8 yuan, I would like to place this fund at the position of 8 yuan and 1 to 8 yuan and 9, with each position reaching the highest level, which is 10,000 lots, Lu Feng replied. As long as it's smashed down, you won't be able to move back. The first 5 seats are controlled by more than a dozen traders. They take the initiative to buy and leave the rest to them. I do this because once a large amount of funds retreat to a very late position, it is easy for the other party to see that this amount we don't dare to touch the funds, it's easy for them to find out our details, Lu Feng replied. But this is very risky, the leader said with a frown. Everything has risks. From my observation in the morning session, they don't have that much confidence. Lu Feng could tell that these people didn't want to take this risk, so he had to make a concession and said, if you are not worried, you can arrange a few more people, and even if they do smash it down, they won't be able to eat much. This issue must be taken seriously. The self-intentional incident must not occur. I just wanted to say that 5 people are too few. Let's increase it to 15. 15 people? There are 30 traders in total, 25 of them are involved in trading, and the other 5 are used as backup, and half are used to operate loan funds. 15 people trading may be too busy. Manpower is tight, 10 of them, I'll arrange this, Lu Feng looked at the group of people and said. They didn't have much to say. This was not the time to argue with Lu Feng, so they all nodded and agreed. Lu Feng went to the restaurant and ate with the traders and several managers. They talked about redeployment and asked several managers if they could go into business to do transactions. The managers shook their heads repeatedly. Are you kidding me? This is something that is beyond your responsibilities. If you do it well, that's what you should do. If you don't do it well, you will be a sinner. Just do your job well. If someone gives you a wrong finger, you are afraid of being pulled out and shot. Lu Feng had no choice but to reduce the number of people by 1 more person. 9 people were responsible for 20 billion in loan funds, and 24 people were responsible for trading. The traders who made mistakes were too afraid to use it, so Lu Feng finally decided to do it himself. There was less than half an hour left before the opening of trading. Lu Feng sat in front of the computer, adjusted the trading keypad, and said to everyone, pay attention, just listen to my command. Can you hear it? The 2 seats at the corners of the front row were said to be inaudible. Lu Feng used to stand in the middle position, which was convenient for viewing the big screen and giving instructions. Now he was sitting in the last row. Get a loudspeaker, Lu Feng ordered one of the managers. In the first minute of the opening, everyone goes long. If it goes up to 7.9 yuan, 1 billion yuan of funds will be placed. If you buy one, you will place 10,000 lots directly. It will be placed in separate orders. The loan capital group will not enter the market in the first 10 minutes. Wait for me. Signal, Lu Feng shouted into the loudspeaker, do you understand? Clear. Countdown to the opening of the afternoon session, 10 seconds. Get ready, the manager shouted. As the market opened, Lu Feng operated quickly on the computer. He placed 1,000 lots at the first time, and other positions followed closely. The short orders were quickly penetrated, and the transaction was 500 million. The next minute, the short orders came like a storm. In the position of the transaction data column, the screen is full of green empty orders. Upward attack. Speed up the attack, Lu Feng shouted, his fingers were about to press sparks. The funds in his account were decreasing rapidly, and the reminder bar could not react. Just a crazy display, your account bought Hong Kong dollars, the transaction amount. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1267. Latest website. In the Goldman Sachs Trading Center, everyone's eyes were fixed on the large display screen. Funds were being lost every minute, but the opponent's market was still strong, which made many people feel uneasy. Sarah stared at the buying orders on the screen, feeling a little desperate. Lu Feng's courage to make a crazy deal at 8 yuan was enough to show that they definitely had more funds than here. For the same amount, you need to pay 10% more funds for the same amount at 8 yuan than at 9 yuan. If the funds of both parties are similar, it is best to close the transaction at 11 yuan, so that you can buy the most of Hong Kong dollars. Go big. Throw out 10 billion, Robertson's voice was a bit hysterical. At this moment, he wanted to smash Lu Feng to death to prove that he was right. Tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars were quickly thrown out, and the many parties that were moving forward with their heads high were quickly hit by a devastating blow, and the K-line quickly turned downward. Lu Feng saw that empty orders were being issued continuously, and he knew in his heart that this was their last blow, and they must completely break through their resistance at this time. Don't increase the purchase order, make room for the top, and prepare the loan capital team. Lu Feng's hands have left the keyboard, and he said to the crowd, be prepared to counter-attack around 10 yuan. Everyone pay attention to the rhythm. Before buying, place orders frequently at the 5 position to avoid being penetrated. Loan funds must be kept up steadily and there should be no interruptions. If unexpected situations are discovered, orders should be cancelled in time. Everyone is prepared. Selling orders continued to push downwards, all the way from 8 yuan to 9 yuan, and it continued to fall. The trading volume was sluggish, as if the buyer had run out of gas at this moment. In the Goldman Sachs Trading Center, long-lost smiles appeared on everyone's faces. The bulls were completely suppressed. For them, the immeasurable decline was a sign that Lu Feng was running out of gas. There was applause at the scene, and even Saras became optimistic and said, it seems that our estimate of Lu Feng's funds is a bit high. The exchange rate continued to fall, all the way towards 10 yuan. Many people in the European financial city looked at this situation and sighed. Lu Feng was short of funds, but he dared to raise it high. Now that the funds are gone, he is welcome. It will be 20 Hong Kong dollars. Some people have already regretted not rushing in before. As long as it plummets, the profits will be doubled. Press up. Break through 12 yuan directly, and the next step will be smooth sailing. Robertson became excited and said with an unstoppable smile on his face, win him by $1, that's a sure win. In the exchange, Lu Feng stared at the time-sharing line on the big screen. The short side was rushing forward on the market. When the short side touched the $10 position, Lu Feng said in a deep voice, eat them. The capital team keep up. The next second, the short side, which had been racing all the way, hit the iron wall with its head. Hundreds of millions of funds appeared out of thin air, eating up the funds in front of it, and then chased all the way. Lu Feng looked at the screen and placed orders frantically. He placed a buy order of 6,000 lots at the position of 9.5 yuan. People in other groups took the initiative to buy in with small orders. It didn't look like there was much money floating around on the board. Buy mainly. The sudden scene made everyone in front of the computer a little stunned. Everyone in the Goldman Sachs Trading Center was a little panicked. Robertson suppressed his composure and said to everyone, don't panic, there is no big back order, this is their last fund. How many Hong Kong dollars do we have left? For 8 billion short orders, one manager replied. Throw out 10 billion and get back $10, Robertson ordered. At this moment, everyone's hands are sweating. No one knows why such a violent resistance suddenly broke out. And the remaining tens of billions of short orders can really destroy the long parties in the next hour? Saras stood there silently. He felt a vague uneasiness in his heart and was trying to get rid of it, but that feeling lingered. 10 billion Hong Kong dollars were thrown out, and all was eaten up in less than 5 minutes. The bulls were still pulling up, So Robertson had no choice but to continue to sell. 20 billion. This time, they only have less than 20 billion Hong Kong dollars left in their hands. This amount of money seems so insignificant in front of the crazy market. But at this moment, even if there is only a weak glimmer of hope, they must fight for it and use the last dollar to defeat Lu Feng. Due to the large amount of Hong Kong dollars he bought at a high position, Lu Feng's funds in hand are already several hundred million less than Robertson's, but it doesn't matter, the next step is to focus on the heart. Take the initiative to buy in. The loan capital team is ready, 5 billion funds are ready. 3, 2, 1. Half of the 20 billion Hong Kong dollars thrown out instantly were eaten up, and 5 billion US dollars suddenly rushed out of the buying order and circled below. This sudden amount of funds was like a heavy hammer, slamming into everyone's heart. Hit it? At that moment, everyone's heart was twitching, and the traders' hands were a little dazed. What would they use to fill the 5 billion yuan in funds? Don't panic, keep selling, this money can't stop the selling pressure, there was a faint tremor in Robertson's voice. Buying orders continued to come in, and 20 billion Hong Kong dollars were wiped out, followed by tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars being thrown out. Robertson knew that this might be the most desperate move, and even so, he still had to give it a try. As the selling orders appeared, the leaders facing the glass window of the exchange could no longer sit still. They stood up and stared at the display screen with frowning brows. Both parties had reached their limit and may have to activate emergency plans at any time. The lending team has increased funds by 10 billion, Lu Feng said solemnly. The buying funds on the market increased again, quickly reaching the 10 billion level from more than 6 billion. In less than a minute, 15 billion US dollars were hovering below. The pressure caused by the huge funds made people unable to breathe. At this moment, not to mention everyone on Wall Street, even London City, Sean, and other people outside the market who were staring at the market felt desperate. They clearly felt that Wall Street was exhausted. At this moment, Robertson's hands were shaking. Both parties put their hands behind their backs to pretend to be calm. Their faces were as ugly as pig liver. They opened their mouths and wanted to withdraw the remaining tens of billions of funds, but the words could not come out. Saras noticed something strange about him and hurriedly said, "We can't continue. It's okay to keep some. Although I don't know where he came from so many funds, these funds are a huge threat. No one dares to bet whether he dare to spend. He doesn't dare to spend it? He absolutely doesn't dare." Robertson's face was gloomy. He just bet that Lu Feng's huge amount of money was used to scare people, but he didn't dare to make the final decision. Just like a bearded tiger, you can't be 100% sure that it won't dare to bite. Lu Feng's heartbeat was also speeding up at this moment. If Wall Street were to risk his life, his own money would definitely be the first to rush in. After observing the market for a few minutes, there was no money rushing out. Lu Feng could feel it, and they continued to make the final struggle. Now, that's the moment of the coup de grace. The loan fund group, all funds, move forward as a whole, 9 yuan, Lu Feng said solemnly. The market changed instantly, and the sluggish K-line became sharp again. The top 5 buying orders quickly rushed forward, and the capital market after buying 5 continued to follow up, rushing in like a mighty army. The total amount of buying funds has exceeded 20 billion US dollars, and tens of billions of funds are occupied in the first 50 positions. The list is full of tens of thousands of buying orders, which makes people's scalp numb. Despair. Faced with this kind of funds, despair has spread throughout the trading center. Traders' hands have even left the keyboard. The remaining tens of billions of Hong Kong dollars are as ridiculous as a mantis trying to control a car in front of these funds. Everyone's face was covered with gray, and it was so quiet that you could hear a needle drop. No one dared to speak, and no one was willing to speak. With only 10 minutes left before closing, Saras came over and patted Robertson on the shoulder, wanting to comfort him, but he didn't know what to say. I just heard Robertson murmuring in a low voice, "Surrender. Surrender." By the close of trading, he had not spent the last 10 billion Hong Kong dollars. Lu Feng's 20 billion capital had already made him lose the confidence to resist. There is nothing crueler in the world than destroying a person's trading confidence, even if someone tell him 100%, smash it out, as long as you smash it out, you will win. As the market closed, Lu Feng slumped in his position, his body soaked with sweat. In the last 10 minutes, all his attention was focused on the market. No one knew what would happen in these 10 minutes. There was applause at the scene, everyone's eyes were red, and the leaders outside rushed in and hugged Lu Feng. This more than a month of fierce fighting was too difficult for everyone. Win. Win, the leader hugged Lu Feng's shoulders and said excitedly, "Lu Feng, you are a hero." A smile appeared on Lu Feng's face, and he said, "I'm relieved that I have lived up to my expectations. I'm sorry, my legs are a little weak and I can't stand up. Do you want to go to the hospital?" It's okay, give me a drink of water." Lu Feng took the water glass and took a sip. Everyone celebrated and ordered the best supper and wine overnight to celebrate. After resting for more than half an hour and conducting a simple review, the atmosphere in the conference room was particularly cheerful, with hearty laughter floating from time to time. In order to prevent them from persisting in their evil intentions tomorrow, 10 billion of the 19 billion funds will be intercepted and returned 1 day later. The remaining funds will be returned 1 day later. The country's 5 billion can be used as reserve funds to stay for a longer period of time. Now we are waiting for news. When the Tiger Fund is definitely dead, we will celebrate then. In New York, at 5 o'clock in the evening, a piece of heavy news came. The latest net worth of Tiger Management was negative and it had entered a substantial stage of bankruptcy. At the same time, many media reported that the Hong Kong dollar had surged, and the trading volume for the whole day was 800 million Hong Kong dollars. A group of financial analysts said on a TV show that Wall Street suffered heavy losses from shorting the Hong Kong dollar. They encountered a head-on attack from all Chinese people headed by Lu Feng. Latest website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1268. Latest website. This is definitely exciting news, but this kind of good news needs to be confirmed before it can be reported. If the other side counterattacks tomorrow, where will the leader's face be put? A simple celebration was made. The sky outside was already slightly bright. Lu Feng was being interviewed. Facing the camera, Lu Feng talked about the current situation. He was extremely optimistic about the Hong Kong dollar and believed that the most difficult moment had been passed. Next is the time when the Hong Kong dollar returns to its peak, and even with the support of the mainland, it will go even better. After finishing the interview and leaving the rest to others, Lu Feng walked out of the exchange and looked at the gray sky outside. He felt indescribably relaxed. He didn't let the driver drive and drove straight home by himself. When I woke up, news of the bankruptcy of Tiger Fund was overwhelming. Quantum Fund was also facing huge losses. Lu Feng's name made the headlines of important media around the world. Many media called him the Asian financial giant. At 5 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng was having dinner, and various congratulatory calls kept coming in. He opened and closed his mouth all about Lu Giant Crocodile. Lu Feng couldn't laugh or cry about this title. The giant crocodile in his previous life has now disappeared, and he has become a giant crocodile. A replacement. The leader called and asked him not to come to the exchange at night. Tiger Fund is currently bankrupt and a huge amount of Hong Kong dollars needs to be redeemed. Next, they must accept the price of 7.8 yuan. This huge redemption will definitely make the Hong Kong dollar stronger. At the same time, a large amount of Hong Kong dollars are in the hands of the mainland, so they have bargaining chips. According to their assumptions, the country can make a lot of money this time. It was finally over. Lu Feng called Zhang Xiaoyan in the evening and asked about Duo's recent situation. They chatted on the phone for more than half an hour. Lu Feng wanted to call Zhang Fengxia as well, but the person on the other end was busy at the moment. It's morning, I probably haven't woken up yet. For a moment, Lu Feng didn't know what to do and sat on the bed in a daze. The clock was ticking, and Lu Feng didn't fall asleep until late at night. It took him 3 days to adjust his schedule, and then he went to the company to handle matters. After dealing with some daily issues and holding 4 or 5 meetings in one day, Lu Feng received a call from Su Yurong in the evening. I'm in the cafe downstairs of the company and I saw you arrived at the company today. Come on down, Su Yurong said. Is something wrong? Lu Feng was reluctant to face her at the moment. According to the current shareholding ratio, Lu Feng has completely controlled United Capital. There are only Lu Feng, Su Yurong, and 5 small shareholders left in this company. Then the 5 small shareholders together do not own 5% of the equity, and the rest are all retail investors. It's nothing, I just miss you. Now the whole earth is your legend, why don't I want to meet you? Su Yurong said to the phone, if you don't come down, I will go up. Then I'll go down. Lu Feng hung up the phone, stepped into the elevator, and walked into the cafe. Su Yurong was sitting in the booth wearing exquisite makeup. The weather had cooled down slightly these days. She was wearing a long black slit dress that perfectly accentuated her figure. When I got up, even my hair was carefully tidied. Do you look good? Su Yurong looked at Lu Feng with charming eyes, looked him up and down and said, you've lost weight. You are so busy every day that you hit the back of your head with your heels. How can you not lose weight? Lu Feng sat down, looked at her and said, you are a bit fat. I have never seen you dressed like this before. I spent money to find a makeup artist and a stylist, and carefully matched it. Su Yurong sat forward, took a sip of coffee and said, you have now become a big hero in Hong Kong who can turn the tide, and the media is praising you all the time. I sometimes look at the photo above and feel that the distance between us is getting farther and farther. What you said is just hurting me. You just did some things within your scope, Lu Feng said casually. The news revealed from the media said that you took the initiative to advance the funds yourself and suffered a lot of losses. You are a person who has nothing to do with yourself and only cares for the people. Su Yurong looked at Lu Feng and said, this is not you. If you lose, just lose a little. This may be the difference between us. Lu Feng drank coffee and said, I am not a pure businessman, and I cannot be a pure businessman. I pursue interests, but in my heart I still hope to do something for the country. Su Yurong laughed. She didn't believe what Lu Feng said in these scenes. The topic turned to the current capital situation in Xiangjiang. Many people ran away, but more people chose to stay. After experiencing this wave, everyone's assets have shrunk, and no one knows how it will develop next. The entire Xiangjiang capital is full of confusion. Su Yurong said that he is also confused. United Capital has almost no performance in the past few months. The two chatted a lot in the cafe, ranging from career to age to family. Her words were filled with a feeling of resignation. I came to see you just to tell you that I will be leaving in a while. Su Yurong looked at Lu Feng and said, go and stay abroad for a while. To tell you the truth, I have been looking forward to you in the past few years. But you haven't given me much response. I know that our relationship is more of a business cooperation, but the bottom line of support has always been feelings. Lu Feng pursed his lips slightly at her words, sighed and said, why are you saying these sad things? Stop talking, stay with me for the last few days. I've already booked a ticket for November. Maybe I won't come back. This can be considered a farewell. Su Yorong stood up and said, "Go to your house, my house is a mess." The two of them left the cafe and drove straight to the villa. After dinner, they sat on the wicker chairs on the balcony and looked at the sea in the distance. Su Yorong talked with some sigh about how when he was a child, he helped his family cut pigweed as long as he could remember. Went to the 3rd grade of junior high school and became the person with the highest academic level in the family. The family was busy and asked her to get married. She was unwilling to not see the outside world, so she ran out on her own. After so many years of stumbling all the way, she found such a big world. She thought it was incredible when she thought about it. In the end, she could only lament that fate had changed people. Lu Feng could tell that she really wanted to leave. Whether it was the handling of the house or the management of the company's custodian, Lu Feng spent the entire evening chatting with Lu Feng about United Capital's operating foundation and customers. Lu Feng looked at her side face under the light, a little disbelieving, but her state showed that she was tired. Maybe. People get really tired, and at a certain moment of the day, they suddenly get tired of everything they once liked, feel that life is meaningless, and throw away all their baggage and go to a place where no one knows them. With a long sigh, the two of them fell into silence. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening, and the night wind blew a little chill. Su Yorong turned around and looked at Lu Feng beside him and said, "I'm really happy to have known you all these years." "Thanks. Have a rest." The room was dark. Lu Feng was lying on the bed unable to sleep. The person next to him just snuggled in his arms. "When you think about that woman who played with you so much, you may never see him again in this life," he said in his heart. Unexplainable sense of loss. There was no lingering sadness that night, just chatting quietly and falling asleep unconsciously. The next day, as Tiger Fund began to redeem Hong Kong dollars, the People's Bank of China officially made the connection, which also meant that the battle to defend the Hong Kong dollar was completely over. Lu Feng received a call. They had reported the matter. The initial reply was, "There is no need for Lu Feng to advance the expenses incurred by the funds crossing the bridge. We can't let him provide people and money." Lu Feng expressed his gratitude on the phone and received another news at the same time. He will go on a trip with a delegation in 10 days. He must make preparations in time. This time it is mainly for negotiations with semiconductor companies. He hopes that Lu Feng can go and reach an agreement with some companies in Silicon Valley. Cooperate. Lu Feng agreed repeatedly. This opportunity was definitely a great opportunity for ordinary enterprises, and ordinary small businesses did not have this kind of treatment. As long as the relationship between the two parties eases, there will be an opportunity to move internationally. At that time, Hurricane Semiconductor will truly come to life. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng asked Su Yorong to stay at home. He went to the company immediately and told Wei Yandan and Zhu Lidong about the matter. He would make relevant preparations within 10 days and contact which company in Silicon Valley. Cooperation between enterprises is most likely to be achieved. Contact the relevant enterprises as soon as possible. We don't want to think about high-end industries, and we don't want to cross patents. We just want to attract orders. Even if the profits are very thin, we have to attract a batch of orders from Silicon Valley. Lu Feng said to Wei Yandan, "Now we can do everything we can, and we can do it well. Yes, it's wafer foundry, do more work in this area." Lu Feng knew that Intel's wafer foundry had been handed over to companies such as TSMC and Samsung since the late 1990s. If it could grab some orders from these two companies, Hurricane Semiconductor would have stabilized its foothold. At least integrated into the global industrial chain. In the villa, Su Yorong was sitting in the garden basking in the sun. She seemed to be in a good mood. She took out a small notebook and calculated silently. Then she nodded and hid the small notebook. It wasn't until 8 o'clock in the evening that Lu Feng came back. The two of them had dinner together and talked about today's events. Su Yorong said with a smile, "Congratulations, this is really a good thing. It won't take long for the hurricane to grow up, and then we will return to the mainland. I originally thought I could rest for a few more days, but I'm very busy this time." Lu Feng looked at her and said, "If you leave, I can't see you off. I will still be in the United States on November 1st. It's okay, maybe we'll meet up sometime." Su Yorong stood up and stared at Lu Feng and asked, "Are you tired? Fine. Then go to bed early." As she spoke, she took Lu Feng's hand and walked upstairs. At this moment, she looked very affectionate. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1269. Latest website. Everything is so natural, just like the ebb and flow of the sea, so natural and so surging. The momentary feeling seems to be able to penetrate the soul and reach the legendary realm of heaven and man. The night was as dark as ink, and the high-pitched sounds were extremely penetrating, but the surroundings of the villa were completely empty. Except for the quiet sea not far away, no one was listening to the joy at this moment. The nanny had already prepared bath water. Su Yorong said that she was too tired and didn't want to take a bath. She would wait until tomorrow. The two of them hugged each other and fell asleep. The two of them got up just after 3 o'clock the next day. After a simple breakfast, Lu Feng went straight to the company and started his day's work. He first called Zhu Lidong in Fuzhou and asked him to make an appointment with Sharp's president to discuss his upcoming relationship with Silicon Valley. Spread the news about business negotiations to see their reactions. In the past 2 days, Lu Feng also received news that the main promoter behind this matter was Shi Watanabe, and some domestic public opinion was behind his promotion. This person is haunting. Is it possible to get rid of him? Is he not just messing with us? He is even more sinister with Fuzhou Semiconductor Company. Lu Feng asked towards the phone, "I am angry with Sharp about this matter. They had a semiconductor industry conference half a month ago. I went to attend, and this matter was widely discussed. These suppressed forces are seeking to fight back." Zhu Lidong said on the phone, "There is no good way at the moment, he is very respected." Lu Feng's face was not very good, and he even thought about finding someone to do it to him, but then he thought about it. If Watanabe died, someone would take his place. This is not Watanabe's problem, it is the United States' problem. "Are they still unwilling?" Lu Feng asked. "Now they are in a difficult situation and are under a lot of pressure. I said in a sideways way that we can use it directly without going through their patent rights. They didn't say anything. They just told me that among international rules, it is best to abide by the rules. Otherwise it will be difficult to move forward." Zhu Lidong sighed and said, "There are unspoken rules everywhere. The unspoken rules of semiconductors in the world are that everyone restrains each other. Once someone crosses the red line, he will be completely banned. If you want to make it big, you must act within the rules." Lu Feng knows this truth. If it is really unscrupulous, who will abide by the broken rules? This is not a chaotic domestic market. Once abandoned by upstream and downstream, a company will come to an end. First try to stabilize the relationship as much as possible, and wait until I have achieved substantial results with the Silicon Valley side, and then look at their attitude. As for you, you should also hang out with some people who are not satisfied with Watanabe Shi, and try your best to let's start from the judicial aspect," Lu Feng ordered. The other end of the phone agreed. Judging from the current situation, Zhu Lidong is likely to stay in Fuzhou this year. The mainland market is relatively small, and there is nothing special that requires him to go. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng sat down and lit a cigarette. This Watanabe Shi was now a thorn in his side. "How are the funds in the Hong Kong dollar fund being handled?" Lu Feng asked Wei Yandan in front of him. "All the loan funds have been returned, and our funds have also been returned," Wei Yandan said hesitantly. "Mr. Lu, there are some rumors outside during your break. Have you heard about it? What rumors? Lu Feng asked a little puzzled. Some people say that you made a lot of money by using state-owned capital in this war to defend the Hong Kong dollar, and that's what you earned, that is, the US $2.2 billion, Wei Yandan whispered. Humming fart, who is spreading these words behind your back, Lu Feng said a little unhappy. When I was the team leader, I had some gossips. It is not convenient for me to tell you about some people. There are people here who want to seek personal gain. Anyway, it's all word of mouth. A local boss had dinner with me the day before yesterday. He talked about it after drinking. I heard that the news was even worse in the mainland. Wei Yandan sighed and said, your assets of more than $1 billion are. This has been made public, and many people converted it into RMB and called you a billionaire boss and the richest man in mainland China. Lu Feng sneered when he heard this. It was obvious that another wave of public opinion was about to hit him. Faced with this situation, Lu Feng couldn't jump out and make any explanation. It gave people the feeling that there was no silver in this place. Just doing his own thing step by step. In the next few days, public opinion began to erupt. Some claimed that Lu Feng had obtained tens of billions of dollars in personal benefits from operating state-owned capital. Others claimed that Lu Feng had built an underground vault in his villa, accumulating millions of dollars. Unclear gold bars. In addition to preparing for work in Silicon Valley-related companies, Lu Feng spent most of the rest of his time not having much contact with the outside world. When he returned home, he only stayed with Su Yorong. A week later, Lu Feng was really unbearable and called the previous leader of the People's Bank of China, hoping to give him a voice. He was really not suitable to go out and explain this matter by himself. Even if he had 10,000 mouths, he still couldn't explain it. Not sure. On October 24, important mainland media officially published an article with the title, Lu Feng, an outstanding people's entrepreneur. The content details what Lu Feng has done over the years. The article praises him as a pioneering and leading entrepreneur who has made outstanding contributions in the fields of electronics and semiconductors, especially in the battle to defend Hong Kong. Being dedicated to altruism cannot be questioned by others. As the news came out, Lu Feng's ears finally cleared up, but some people were still talking about his powerful background in private, and even that he was someone's illegitimate son. Su Yorong stayed in Lu Feng's villa for 9 days. Her days were quite leisurely, and she felt quite comfortable as if she had become a stay-at-home daughter-in-law in advance. During lunch, Lu Feng told her about today's newspaper. Su Yorong smiled and said, "This is your energy. Over the years I have been in Xiangjiang, the outside world has been rumoring that I have slept with many people, but I can't shut anyone up. I've lived here for a long time and it's time to go back. I'll leave tomorrow." "Just wait until tomorrow," Lu Feng looked at her and said. "No, wait, it's always the saddest thing to see someone leave." "I'd better be the first one to leave." Su Yorong put down his chopsticks and said, "I've finished eating and let's go." Lu Feng watched her stand up and go out without looking back, then got on the shuttle bus and went directly to the parking lot. There was no hesitation or nostalgia in the whole process, which made Lu Feng feel a little empty. In the afternoon, Lu Feng called the organizing department of the visit to find out what he could bring and the specific time schedule. Then he took a boat back to Shenzhen in the evening. That evening, I had dinner with Zhang Xiaoyan and chatted for a long time about the current situation of Huaxia. Lu Feng told her not to be too anxious. Even the liquidation would be done at the end of the year. He would first lay off a group of people to keep the company afloat and try his best to communicate with the local municipal government. "Let's chat and see if anyone is willing to take over. Even if it is completely bankrupt, it is not a big problem." The next morning, Lu Feng took a plane directly to the capital. He held a meeting that day, mainly to give instructions on various precautions and etiquette issues. There were many people accompanying him this time, 200 to 300 people, most of whom were state-owned enterprises. Only Lufeng is a purely private company. After the meeting dispersed, several state-owned enterprise CEOs organized a dinner party, and dozens of people gathered together. Among them, the CEO of China Electronics, who was considered the big brother of electronics, sat next to Lufeng, chatting about the development of semiconductors in the past few years. The external environment is indeed a big problem. I have heard of Xi Watanabe, but I didn't expect it to have such a big impact. It seems they still care about you. Mr. Su patted Lufeng on the shoulder and said, internationally, you are much more famous than us. I'm just messing around. Among other things, this trip is just to win over the wafer foundry. In any case, Hurricane Semiconductor will eventually be embedded in the world. We are not willing to do the work that others are unwilling to do. Do it, Lufeng said to Mr. Su, you will have to fight for this order when the time comes. How big of wafers can the wafer foundry in Tianjin produce? Asked the telecom boss. We can produce 6 inches now, but technological breakthroughs are rapid. Next year we can officially produce 8 inches. Now the international mainstream is 8 inches, and our yield rate must be higher, Lufeng said with great certainty. Everyone was a little surprised when they heard this. Isn't Hurricane Semiconductor catching up in wafers too fast? Lufeng is quite proud of the growth of Hurricane Semiconductor. With so many large state-owned enterprises, he cannot brag about it. From wafers, testing, packaging, and design, Hurricane Semiconductor is second-rate in the world, but domestically, absolutely a first-class existence. And he is confident that in the next 5 years, it will become a world-class company in certain fields. At the same time, Lufeng promotes Hurricane's information interactive machine and radio technology, and can cooperate with telecom in this regard. After 3 rounds of drinks and 5 delicious dishes, Lufeng knew that the large companies here should have been listed in Hong Kong around July according to historical procedures. However, due to the rapid short selling on Wall Street, they had to postpone it. With so many large companies listed, the shares sold will definitely be able to let a securities company make a fortune. When will SET prepare to go public? Lufeng asked. It may be next year. The current situation of the Hong Kong stock market is that it is still breaking even if it goes up, Mr. Su said with some helplessness. Otherwise, you can leave this matter to me. I still know some people from securities companies in Xiangjiang. The additional shares can be issued at a slightly higher price. There is no need to worry about the market not recognizing the funds. We can give you a guaranteed price, Lufeng he spoke. Mr. Lu still has this way, Mr. Su asked curiously, if you can sell out the stocks, that would be a good way. We have not raised much funds, only 500 million Hong Kong dollars, or 2.03 yuan per share. I can give you 2.5 yuan, Lufeng promised. Many companies present have not been listed on the Hong Kong stock market this year. Hearing that Lufeng was so confident, he immediately became interested. Lufeng bought many companies in one fell swoop, including China Electronics Technology, Shumyip Holdings, Telecom, Guangxin Enterprises, etc. Latest website.